Hello, YouTube pipers, friends, and neighbors. It's double O me here, double O pipe, aka Rick. I'm looking for my lighter, is what I'm looking for. There it is. I got my Savinelli Bing's favorite loaded down with Carter Hall, now I'm looking for my tamper. I am not prepared for this. I have a beverage, but I bought a different bottle of Guinness, and it doesn't smell right or taste right, so I don't know what the problem is there. But anyway, I will not let them go to waste. I'll just, well, I don't know what I did with my tamper. Dang. Well, bugger all. Hang on for a minute. It's got to be around here somewhere. Ah, there it is. I found it. It was covered up. I know this is Pipe Week, and I know this is Cobb Tuesday. But I just didn't want to smoke a cob. Sorry, guys. Okay. There you go. We're all lit up. Just doesn't taste right. I would have thought that any of these Guinnesses would have tasted the same. Label's different, and the taste is different. I don't know why. And once again, I've mixed it half and half with this. It's the closest thing I can find to a pale ale to mix. I got a bunch of little fruit flies flying around this place, and they're driving me nuts. Got some little bitty ones. There's one just went past me there. And some little plump ones. And they are fast, because every time I go to hit them, they're gone. Don't quite know how to get rid of those things. And that bug spray, I'll spray it into the trash can where you toss scraps of food down there. Doesn't faze them. Doesn't faze them at all. Anyway. Our summer days out there are pretty warm, up in the 90s. Pretty humid. Up in the 70s and 80%. Kind of get used to it, and then you don't. But I guess it's better than being down in Florida. I don't know. Suppose I take you back to 10th grade at James Island High School. I was president of my class in 10th grade. That's a little known fact. But my buddy and I walking down the breezeway, and he was talking to me about college, and he said, you know, we should get into some organizations because it looks good on your resume whenever you apply to a college. And I said, yeah, I know. He said, had you thought about any? And I said, no, not really, but I guess it sounds like a good idea. Excuse me. He said, they got all kinds. Weren't you wanting to be a doctor or something? And I said, well, yeah, that's what I've been talking about since grammar school. Excuse me. He said, well, they got, what was it, future health care workers or healthcare workers of the future, or I don't know what it was. And I said, yeah, I can look into that one. That sounds pretty good. I asked him what he wanted to do. He said he wasn't sure. And I said, well, why don't we do this? Why don't we go to all the meetings of all the clubs for all future job opportunities and see what meshes with our personalities? He said, okay, why don't we do that? I said, right now there's a Future Teachers of America club meeting down that hallway. You want to let's check that out? He said, I don't know if I want to teach or not. I said, well, all we're going to do is go and see what they have to say. It might strike a chord. You might find that you hadn't thought about something that might tickle your interest. Who knows? He said, okay, let's do that. So we went to the meeting. People were sitting down. It was in one of the classrooms. And I sat down. We went back to the back and sat in the next to one of the windows. Settled down, and I looked up, and there was a little short girl that just captured my attention. I thought to myself, wow, she's cute. And I poked my buddy and said, what do you think? He said, not my type. I said, well, why is that? And he said, I think she's a senior, Ricky. I said, well, doesn't hurt to look, does it? So anyway, this little girl, short blonde hair, cute as she could be, stood up and said, my name is Barbara. I'm the president of the Future Teachers of America. And we welcome you to the first meeting of FTA. We sat there it was about an hour. I just kept looking at her and smiling, but she never really looked at me. And she said, well, that should do it for this meeting. Why don't we go ahead and get ourselves off to the house or off at home. And remember, we'll meet this same day, same time next week. And as we were walking out, I went up, she was talking to somebody, I went up and stood beside her, and she finished talking to whoever it was and turned around and looked at me and she said, yes? I said, my name is Ricky. And she said, you're going to be a teacher in the future? And I said, well, I hadn't. Yes, I am. I've been thinking about it for a long time. I was smooth. She said, well, what kind of teaching you want to do? What do you want to teach? What particular subject? I stood there thinking, what the heck? I'm getting a third degree here. I just wanted to talk to her for a minute. I said, I don't know. I just figured I would come to the meeting, see what you had to say, and see what kind of gelled with me as time went on. She said, well, you must favor some subject. And I thought, she said, how about chemistry? I said, no. Math? No. I said, probably English. I like English. She said, that's a good subject. What do you want to teach? Grammar school, middle school, high school, college, university? I said, I don't know. I hadn't thought that far ahead. I just, she said, well, you should be able to figure it out. I said, well, how about could you and I maybe go and get a hamburger and talk about it? And she looked at me and she said, Ricky, I'm a senior. And that did it. She turned around and walked out the door. My buddy, as I walked out, he said, told you. I said, yeah, you did, didn't you? Well, waited for the whole week. I was kind of eager to get to the next meeting because I wanted to try my luck again. We got to the class and sat down. She pulled the meeting to order, went through the old news and started the new, and then said, as the meeting was coming to an end, she said, I want you all to know that, well, maybe that was a third meeting. Yeah, that must have been a third meeting. It was a third meeting. And it was winding down, and she said, before we leave, I want you all to be sure and come to the next meeting. Because we got Krispy Kreme donuts we're going to sell door to door. For 50 cents a box, we get 20 cents out of that 50 cents. Can you imagine 30 cents for a dozen donuts? So please, everybody come by, because each of us, I've ordered 300. There are 30 of us in this club now. And I've assigned 10 boxes of donuts to each person in here. So that comes to 300 boxes of donuts, a dozen each box. So please make sure you attend that meeting next week so we can issue your 10 boxes and you can sell them for the club. She never really looked at me that much. Walked out again. Didn't give me much of a chance for anything because I was in 10th grade and she was a senior. Well, next week rolled around. About half of the club showed up. And she said, well, we might as well go ahead and get started because time is beginning to pass by here and we got to get out of here. She said, maybe they'll show up in the next few minutes. And she kept looking at the door as the meeting proceeded and kept looking at the door and nobody came. I think it was a silent message. The truck showed up, unloaded 300 boxes on a table on the outside where people could pick it up as they drove out. And she got this worried look on her face and said, I think we're going to have to ask each of you to sell a little more in order to get these donuts done. I don't know why these others haven't shown up, but they haven't. So we're going to have to take it upon ourselves to sell more each. So please come by the table out front, pick up your boxes of donuts. So I said to my buddy, I said, come on, let's go get the car and pick up some donuts. Excuse me. So we went and got the car. Drove around. Stopped in front of the entrance to the school where the table was, full, just jam-packed with boxes and boxes of Krispy Kreme donuts. And she was there signing out the amount that each person gathered. People said or the people in front of me said, we signed up for 10 boxes. We can't sell any more than that. So when I walked up, I said, tell you what, give me twice my order, and my friend here, give him twice his order, which he frowned at me when I said he didn't appreciate that. So we'll take 40 boxes, 20 apiece. And she looked up and smiled and wrote my name down and put the number that we got. We packed them into the car and took off for the terrace where we lived. Before we left, I told her, I said, I'll bring the money to your house because I know where you live. She looked at me kind of funny. I said, so when we finish selling them, I'll come by there and bring you your money. And she said, okay, kind of looking at me like, you stalking me? Of course, we didn't have a word for stalking back in those days. We just did it. So my buddy and I went around door to door. He sold his 20 boxes and he said, Ricky, I've done my share. I want you to take me on home. I said, you sure you don't help me sell these? He said, nope, you're on your own, buddy, because I've done my part. I said, okay. So I ran around, sold the rest of mine, threw the change in one of the empty boxes because I had eaten a dozen donuts while I was driving around, and put my 50 cents in the box too. Drove up to her house and gave her or knocked on the door. There were boxes of donuts on her porch. She opened the door and she was just a crying. Tears just rolling down her face. I said, nobody's coming to pick them up. She said, no, I've been calling all around to everybody that's supposed to have picked up their boxes of donuts, and they gave me all kinds of excuses. I said, well, I still got some time. Let me get these in the back of my car and I'll see what I can do with them. And she looked at me and she just, big smile came across her face and she said, you'll do that? I said, yeah, give them to me. I'll do it. Thinking to myself, well, I packed them all in the back seat of the car. I was driving a little Corvair at the time, and my parents had bought one of the Corvairs when they first came out. I love that little car. It was tan. And I kind of, at this particular point, I thought, looks like a Palomino with that color. And I was thinking to myself, standing there in shiny armor, and I flipped up my visor, my imaginary visor, and I said, I'll get them sold. Don't you worry about it, sweetheart. In my mind, I'm going that way. So, anyway, I drove down the street, stopped every so often, picked up boxes, went door to door. A lot of people would just give me 50 cents and say they didn't want those donuts, but they felt like it was a good cause. Because you always told them why you were selling these things. So, as the sun was beginning to set, I walked up to the last house with my last dozen donuts. And sold that dozen. It was a Friday night, so some people were buying them because they had this was what they could use for dessert donuts. Everybody, everybody loved Krispy Kreme donuts back in those days, so it wasn't that hard to sell them. It just took a lot of time and a lot of shoe leather once you got them, once you parked somewhere and started walking around the neighborhood. After I sold that, we always got $half. We didn't get 2 quarters. You know, some people gave us 2 quarters, but $half was something that was around all the time. I don't ever see them anymore. But anyway, just when I got in the car, I threw it in the box and it got all sticky with that sugary mess that was in the box because I had eaten another dozen donuts as I was riding around. And I drove up to her house. Walked up to the door, and as I was beginning to knock, the door flew open, and she said, "You sold them all?" I said, "I did." I said, "Here's your money." She just broke out in the biggest grin. And I said, "Will that be all?" She said, "Thank you so much." I was so worried I didn't know what I was going to do. I said, "Well, I was just doing my bit, ma'am." She walked up to me and she touched me on the cheek, and then she kissed me on the cheek, and I blushed. And I said, "Do you think maybe we can go have a hamburger sometime?" And she said, "I think so." We dated from that from that day on until she graduated and went off to college. We still dated a little bit after that. But with her college days and me only in the 11th grade, you know how that went. But it was fun while it lasted. And I just felt like the once and future knight. Me in my shining armor on my Palomino steed, the Corvair. That was fun. I didn't mind selling donuts. I don't know, as a kid, I was always selling something door to door, so my cousin and I would have some money, so it didn't bother me much. And the funny thing is, I never got into fuchsia healthcare workers. And I don't think my buddy did either, but he went into dentistry and I went into pharmacy after going through 4 years of military, of course. But I thought that was kind of funny. Okay, folks, I got nothing more to say. It's just another fun memory for me. That was the first girl I wasn't really that shy with. Yeah, I liked her folks, and I think her folks liked me too. Her sister, who was younger, liked me too. And if I'd have been smart, I'd have liked her sister more. But I never was smart when it came to women. Ah, man, oh man. There was a cog loose somewhere when it came to women. I don't know why. But anyway, thank you for watching. Thank you for smoking a pipe with me. And if you had a cool one on you, I thank you for having a sip with me. And I hope the rest of your week goes well. Tomorrow I got to go grocery shopping. It's Codger Day. It's Geezer Day, which means geezers get a fraction off their full price. And I better shut up and smoke my pipe because it seems to be going out a lot. Take care, folks. I hope everybody's doing well. God bless you till the next time. Bye-bye.